Did Russell Westbrook lose playoff playing time with his elementary school mistake last night? Or is he still one of Michael Malone's foxhole guys? Let's answer that question coming up next. By now, you've seen it. You've heard about it, right? Nuggets Nation, hoops heads out there. The shot heard around the world that didn't go in. The smoked layup from 17-year professional basketball player Russell Westbrook. And then the foul with 0.1 second left. What the heck was that guy thinking? And now what will be the results from his decisions? All right, Nuggets fans, there are a couple of things that we're going to talk about with that game last night. You lost your 6th straight to Minnesota. They're that big bully on the block. You know what Minnesota did to Denver last night? It took one of those chains off their neck, and then we all went and cried in our car like Debo just punked us on Friday. That's what happened again last night. And it's all thanks to you, Russell Westbrook. So the Nuggets start hot. It was 21-5. I was excited out of the gate because that was one of my big questions going into that game. Hey, will the Denver Nuggets match the Minnesota Timberwolves energy when it comes to how you start the game? In the last 5 that they'd lost before last night, Minnesota came out, punched them in the face, and the Nuggets went home crying, trying to clean up their blood rather than countering with a hook to the body. Last night, not only did they meet him at the flagpole for the fight, they came out and threw the first punch, and it was 21-5. I thought we were going to see a different look of the Denver Nuggets. So that's how it started. Let's fast forward to the fourth quarter now. Middle part of the fourth quarter. Minnesota's closing the gap. Denver had a great run to start the fourth quarter. Top of my head, I want to say it was 14-2, 14-4, something along those lines. But Ant starts to go crazy. Anthony Edwards, in fact, goes on an 8-1 run by himself. Christian Braun, shout out to Aaron Gordon, this beautiful little tap pass underneath the basket to Christian Braun, corner 3, clank off the front of the rim. Great defense from Nikola Jokic. We don't say that a lot. It leads to a turnover. The other end, Aaron Gordon brings the ball up the floor and shoots a 3, clank, going the other way. Christian Braun has great positioning and takes a charge on Anthony Edwards. They come back down the other way. Joker gets a couple free throws. We get ourselves into an overtime period. First overtime, great. We get into a second overtime period. And then we get the final 18 to 20 seconds. Terrible turnover by the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it ends up in the hands of Russell Westbrook. And I did this about, let me add it up real quick, 1,034 times this morning. Freeze frame, click by click by click, what this looked like as soon as Russell had the ball in his hands. So you're at about 18 seconds as him and Christian Braun start to run back the other way. The only defender in the frame is Mike Conley of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Russ keeps the ball in his hands. His eyes start to widen because he thinks he's about to win the game and end the streak for the Denver Nuggets. Pass over to CB. CB quick pop pass back. Now, I think Christian was looking for the lob. Dunked that thing home. He's the hero. Kudos to Mike Conley. He took that away by kind of keeping like box out position, putting that butt of his in the way of Christian Braun from jumping up over him for the lob and the catch and finish dunk. So it was a good job from Conley. And then you get Russell Westbrook smoking a layup, guys, wide open on the right side of the rim for a right-handed basketball player. You got to make those 100 out of 100 times. And maybe that is the one that Russell Westbrook would have missed. I don't know. I've seen his plays of late. Maybe it's like the 10th of the 100 he would have missed. So there are a couple things. I want to hear from you on this one. What do you do? What were you taught? What do you teach if you're a coach out there, or you just have a kid, a young person in your life that loves hoops? I know what I was taught. I was taught if you're not the best free throw shooter and you're in that situation, you keep your dribble, you play keep away, you run away from defenders, and then when the best player or free throw shooter on the floor at that time gets on the right side of half court, boom, you give them the basketball. He didn't do that. And like I said, go back frame by frame and pause it. At about 12 seconds, Nikola Jokic has crossed the half-court line. Russell's starting to gather to take that layup, attempt the layup that he ultimately smoked. If you say go make the layup, I'm not going to argue with you a ton. But what I think the right play is, kill as much clock as possible and get yourself to the free throw line. You knock down a couple of free throws because it's Joker or it's Christian Brown that are shooting them, the best two options on the floor at the time. And then you know what you do? You go up on the other side and set up a 3-point perimeter. Somebody at the top standing like this. Somebody on the elbows standing like this. Somebody at each baseline standing like this. And you let the Minnesota Timberwolves blow right by you. And you want to play the free throw game and extend this thing for another 10 minutes and play out the final 2 seconds? Fine, we'll do that too. So those are the options. Make the dang layup or dribble it out, kill the clock, find the free throw shooter, or cover the ball up so you're not going to turn it over and wait for somebody to come over and hack you on the arms. You get to the free throw line and bury the T-Wolves. He did neither of those. He missed the layup. He didn't even look back to see where the freaking MVP was, trailing the play, clearly wanting the basketball, who had been a star all night long with a 61-point triple-double. So like I said, I'm blaming everything on Russell Westbrook. You either make the dang layup or you pull it back out and you wait for the MVP to close this thing out and let him finish carrying you guys to a victory like he was on his way to doing. So none of that happened, and they lost to the Timberwolves, and it's the 6th straight loss, and we had to hear Anthony Edwards screaming on the other end of the court. Anybody else sick of Anthony Edwards at this point? A lot of talent with that dude. But the next time I see him screaming and jumping up and down at Ball Arena because he beat the Denver Nuggets, I'd appreciate it if it were the last time that I saw him jumping up and down and screaming that he beat the Denver Nuggets. So what does this mean? Now, they were without Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, so does anything change? I don't know that I can say yes to that. The T-Wolves were without Dante DiVincenzo and Naz Reid. When it comes to like overall basketball play, Naz Reid's better than Michael Porter Jr. Porter's a better shooter, but everything else that goes into making a basketball player, Naz Reid's better than Michael Porter Jr. Jamal Murray, Dante DiVincenzo. Is Jamal a better offensive player? You bet you know what he is. Is he a better defender? Absolutely not. Playmaker? I don't know. So I don't know that you can go, yeah, with those guys there, it's a different outcome. What if Minnesota had their guys there? Is it still the same outcome? But one of the major questions that I think come from last night's loss is how Michael Malone and the rest of the guys in that locker room, especially as we get into the postseason, feel about Russell Westbrook, feel about the agent of chaos, because he cost his team a game last night. And will he ever learn his lesson? Or is this just who Russell Westbrook is? Can you teach an old dog new tricks? I'm not sure you can when it comes to a guy like Russell Westbrook. And you know what? I heard Michael Malone after the game. I heard Nikola Jokic after the game. They're not down on Russ. Maybe it's a different tune when they're behind closed doors and chuckleheads like me aren't sitting there and going, oh, say something about about Russ so we can run with it on the radio show and on the YouTube show and all the things. Maybe they did have that conversation. But my takeaway after the game, and now a night to sleep on it, a 4-hour radio show where we dissected it for 4 straight hours, I think Michael Malone has the same amount of trust in Russell Westbrook that he did before he blew that layup. I think Nikola Jokic has the same amount of trust in Russell Westbrook that he did before he blew that layup. I have been the biggest advocate of Russell Westbrook coming to the Denver Nuggets and helping this team. And he did that in several instances throughout this regular season. They had a stretch where they didn't lose while he was in the starting lineup. He has been good in moments. Last night was exactly what everybody that was anti-Russ to the Nuggets was afraid of happening. And it happened. I just learned this stat. Shout out to my dude ZB, Zach Bai, on the Fan. He has 41 turnovers in the last 8 games. That's unacceptable from the point guard position and the guy that has the ball in his hands at the rate that Russell Westbrook has the ball in his hands. So you know what? I'm absolutely terrified. Well, 2 things. The Minnesota Timberwolves still, because it's 6 straight losses at the hands of the Timberwolves. And I'm absolutely terrified that Michael Malone and Nikola Jokic will just think everything's okay with the way Russell Westbrook handled that decision last night. And I'm here to tell you, it's not okay. You need to learn your lesson from that, Russ. You are not a closer. You are not the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth option on this basketball team. And because you're chaotic and because you couldn't keep your basketball ego in check last night, the Nuggets have now lost 6 straight to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I know I'm not alone in being absolutely terrified that that matchup comes in round 1 of the NBA postseason, and we're watching the Nuggets get bounced before the month of April is over. How do you feel, Nuggets Nation? Love to get your answers, your response, your takes. Am I crazy? Are you crazy? Is Russ crazy? Is Malone crazy? Comment right here on the YouTube page. And while you're there, like and subscribe. Check out everything that we're doing. Nuggets Nation, what say you? This has been Dover on Denver, and now I'm done.